Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic Live. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. So excited to be with you and always excited to share the news with you, folks. This is an important stream. We're going to be asking you to specifically take some calls of action because the Department of Justice is wrapped up in a case with Marc Elias. Okay, and if you don't know who Marc Elias is, he is the absolute enemy to election integrity. Okay, this guy. He will file for any illegal to vote, any voter ID laws. Those are out for him. I mean, anything that actually secures our elections, this guy is against. He has tried many cases for the DNC, Hillary Clinton. I could go on and on. And somehow Trump attorneys in the Department of Justice are enjoined with this guy in an important case down in Georgia. So do me a favor, please smash that like. Chat in with where you're from to help get this stream out there and maximize its impact. I'm going to ask you to share it. And then there's some specific other steps. I have someone who's going to share some valuable information on this case. I have, if you're not familiar with True the Vote, we have a statement from True the Vote as well, because there's cases centered around them. Before I get going, I just need to share a quick message, a word from my sponsor, Mike Lindell.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
And look, folks, if you didn't think Mike Lindell needed more energy, apparently he does. He's got his Rev 7. I use it. I used it again today as a pre-workout drink. I used it while I was getting ready for my 5K with the kids. By the way, I was on the podium for that. Really surprised me, actually. But that's not what this stream is about. So I'm going to get right into it here with our intrepid reporter, Heather Mullins. Heather, good to see you. You're traveling. You're doing some work out of state, out of the great state of New Hampshire today. But we want to talk about Georgia specifically. I'm going to bring in, Heather, your post off of X. And we're gonna talk really quickly about this, and then I've got some specific questions for you. I am going to ask you folks. This is Attorney General Pam Bondi as well. We're gonna contact her a few different ways, but this is so if you're following me on X, you can find Heather now very easily because this will be my last post. So if you just go to my X account at Neil E. Johnson, you can follow Heather as well. And you can also see what this is about. I retweeted her. I did what it's called a quote tweet. Quote tweets do better than simply retweeting. So I'm going to ask you to do that, to comment on this post because
tag Pam Bondi as well.
Yep, tag Pam Bondi, and she'll see this. But the attorneys and the DOJ are working alongside Marc Elias and Stacey Abrams to undermine elections in a lawsuit against True the Vote. And so you had posted this article, so I'm just going to lay out these facts really quick, and then we're going to go into a series of questions. True the Vote to face off with Trump attorneys in Georgia, voter challenge case, unless the DOJ acts, folks. So this is Catherine Engelbrecht, but the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals will soon hear the civil rights voting case of Fair Fight, Inc. Folks, that's Stacey Abrams, okay? If there's anybody more whacked than Stacey Abrams, let me know. But versus Catherine Engelbrecht, founder of True the Vote. Fair Fight, a group founded by Stacey Abrams, a twice failed Democratic nominee for Georgia governor, is a nonprofit organization fighting for fair and free elections, folks. Abrams was triggered after True the Vote, a nonprofit investigating and revealing mass voter fraud nationwide, challenged the eligibility of more than 360,000 Georgia voters ahead of the 2021 runoff election. And that was a very important election, folks, because that determined the control of the U.S. Senate with the Biden regime and why he was able to push every single radical thing that he could. So, Heather, I'm going to give us the nuts and bolts, bring us up to date on this case. You've covered the courtroom in Georgia quite a bit, so help us out.
Yeah, no, I sat in on this entire trial in northern Atlanta before it got appealed to the 11th Circuit, and True the Vote actually won that case to an Obama appointed judge. So essentially what happened was True the Vote.
Let everybody catch that real quick. This case is so lock cinch, okay, that an Obama appointed judge said, yeah, True the Vote's in the right.
Yeah, so basically, True the Vote nationwide has done incredible election integrity work. They comb through the voter rolls using an app called IV3. I actually did a lot of work with True the Vote leading up to the election. And IV3, what it did is it allowed people. So I personally made an IV3 account, and I was able to see all the ineligible records on the voter rolls in my district where I'm currently registered to vote. So basically, every year people move in and out of districts, or in and out of states all across the country. And what people don't realize is once you put in a change of address in a new state, that has nothing to do with your voter registration in the state you just left. So you will still remain on that state's voter rolls unless you take it off, or in some cases, states every couple of years might do a purge, but there's no guarantee. So True the Vote used this program called IV3 so that people could sign up and see the ineligible records in their area. And then you can print out, you can one by one go and they ran this against the National Change of Address Registry and other data, and they cultivated it to their standards, which is always remarkable. Everything Greg and Catherine do is always like just incredible work. And then the people like myself in my district, what you can do is you can take the spreadsheet of that information with a cover letter, go down to your local board of elections, you present it to them. And in Georgia specifically, they take it to the Georgia election officials and they say, I'm submitting these voter challenges because they're ineligible, they're on the record. And the election officials are then supposed to look at those, and they decide after doing their, research on it, whether or not this is an active voter or an ineligible voter. And then they have to take the necessary steps by law to remove it. And so Stacey Abrams, when she found out Greg and Catherine and True the Vote specifically were empowering citizens in Georgia to challenge these voter records by giving them access to data that they could then comb through and take to their respective boards, they decided to file a lawsuit and call it voter intimidation. So somehow by submitting these challenges, they are intimidating voters. And Marc Elias got involved, and I'm pretty confident that Marc Elias has some assistant that is assigned to watch everything True the Vote does, because they're so over the mark when it comes to their work, which is why they're experiencing this atrocious lawfare, like to the tune of millions of dollars True the Vote has spent on just defending themselves in court that could have been spent on proactive election integrity measures, like developing programs like IV3, which, by the way, to do that, the amount of data that they've had to pay for, like voter roll data, none of that is just in some states, it might be more easily accessible. But in states like Georgia, they put like these heavy price tags just on getting the data. And so True the Vote's going around paying for all this data, building out all these programs so that we can have free and fair elections. And now here they are going to court, defending themselves not only against Marc Elias, but against leftover Biden DOJ attorneys. So now American taxpayers are actively being used to work against election integrity in the state of Georgia. So that's why we need to contact Pam Bondi, who ironically I met when she came to New Hampshire for the RNC's Protect the Vote initiative. They had a meeting out there with Mike Whatley, the chairman for the RNC. And I, went to this meeting. I talked to both of them. I talked to Pam Bondi, and I specifically at the time was sort of like working with Catherine on a couple projects. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm working with Catherine on a few things. She's like, I love Catherine. She does great work. Okay, Pam Bondi, if you love Catherine, please reach out to her. Take a look at this case and, call off the hound dogs, because they're actively working against Catherine and undermining elections in Georgia. So that's sort of the gist of it. And I have a statement I'm just going to read from Catherine.
One second, Heather. One
go
quick
ahead.
second. So just a couple things quick, folks. So I don't believe that Pam Bondi even realizes this is going on. So this is why it's so important for us to tag her in these tweets and also contact. And I've got all the information. We're going to go over that here in just a few minutes. Okay, so stick with us. The other thing, though, just for those who aren't familiar with True the Vote, many of you have probably watched 2000 Mules. Both Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips are in there. Greg is the one responsible for gathering all that geospatial data from the cell phone. So I mean, these are professionals. Okay, these are people that.
Which, mind you, there's another Marc Elias case against True the Vote over that 2000 Mules movie, which is like an anti-free speech case. So that's another one the Trump DOJ should really take a look at, because it's basically senseless lawfare, and Greg and Catherine are essentially like going through all of this alone. And it's sad, because every dollar they're spending on this lawfare being tied up in all of this is money they can't spend being effective. I mean, look at the brilliance of just the concept that went into what later became known as 2000 Mules. I knew Greg and Catherine back when it was just a hypothesis, when they were purchasing all of this cell phone data. And my investigations while I was working with Real America's Voice as a reporter overlapped with theirs. I had a whistleblower come forward to me that was hired by the National Republican Senatorial Committee to watch those drop boxes in Georgia, and he witnessed people stuffing them. So here is this guy, Greg, that I know, who's also doing election stuff, and he's like, we're buying up all this geospatial cell phone data so that we can map the pattern of life for these drop boxes. And I'm like, oh, wow, I have a whistleblower. And he's like, Dinesh might want to feature that whistleblower in our film, because it paints a huge part of the story, which is that Republicans knew about it and swept it under the rug. And so, I've known about the work of Greg and Catherine, which is incredible, but here they are doing this amazing work and having to spend millions of dollars defending their work against people like Marc Elias. And it's just, it's insane. And not to mention, we now know Stacey Abrams got $2 billion from U.S. aid. Think about that. $2 billion. So she's getting money from the government and then using that money to hire people like Marc Elias to go after Catherine for cleaning the voter rolls. Like,
no. She bought ovens, gas ovens or something.
Yeah, okay. But you see like the conflict of interest.
It's
like,
yeah. It's bad.
It's absolutely crazy. Let me just read Catherine's statement for you guys. She said, "Thank you to everyone who's taking an interest in this case. We are very optimistic about our upcoming hearing before the 11th Circuit. This is an enormous case of landmark importance. We won with a complete defense verdict in the suit in district court, then Fair Fight appealed. And now here we are. The silver lining in all of this is now we have the opportunity to make case law, to change history for the betterment of voters' rights. It has been a very long battle. The Biden DOJ intervened in the case and sent a gaggle of attorneys to the trial. We are very hopeful the Trump DOJ will withdraw from this case, and we hope they will intervene in the Mark Andrews case. Time will tell. No matter what the DOJ does, we will see this through ever onward." So this is sort of where they're at. But like I said, they're doing some of the most effective election integrity work in the country, which is why these lawsuits are coming after them, to try to drain them of their time, drain them of their resources, keep them tied up in court. And like Catherine said, this is going to become case law. So this case, the outcome of it, is going to protect Georgia residents and their rights to challenge and submit voter challenges to ineligible records going forward. We have the midterms coming up in Georgia, right? And so we want to protect Georgia residents and voters and their right to challenge these ineligible records, because we know Secretary Raffensperger was not cleaning the voter rolls. They were dirty as can be. Dirty as can be. And why would you ask? Why is money being spent to fight against removing names from voter rolls that don't belong? I think we all know.
You got to ask the question, and this has got like, yeah. I mean, this isn't like, wow, why would they do that? You don't have to like reach very far here, folks. Okay, I mean, we kind of see what's going on. Why would you fight voter ID? I mean, we need an ID for everything. Stop with the whole racist trope. But that's what they do every time. Now they're trying to tell us that proof of citizenship is going to be too big of a burden to vote because somehow some lady might have been divorced and then the name and now, but they can still get passports. It's all just crap. It's all just BS.
Let me also point out the other part of this case. It wasn't just True the Vote that got sued. So when True the Vote was working with, people on the ground in all different states, I mean, they challenged millions of ineligible records nationwide, thanks to the brilliance of IV3. But in Georgia specifically, they had given a shout out to a couple people in Georgia, like, thank you for your hard work and, your passion for election integrity and, doing the work that you're doing in your county and blah, 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 blah. And so Marc Elias and Stacey Abrams also chose to sue those individuals, and True the Vote had their backs and actually defended them in court. So they've been covering those legal fees for these people. And when I sat in on that trial, when I was listening to the case as it was going on, there were people in there, like one guy was battling, I forget his name, he was battling some health issues at the time. I don't know if it was cancer or something. He was battling something, but he got sued, and it basically risked his, just being able to defend himself in court against Stacey Abrams and Marc Elias, put him in a really bad position financially. So thank God for True the Vote and being able to have their back in these cases, because, True the Vote claims challenging this is voter intimidation, but what they're actually doing is using lawfare to intimidate Georgia residents from not exercising their right to challenge these records. And so if anyone is intimidating anyone, it's Stacey Abrams and Marc Elias trying to intimidate people like that, trying to make it so you're going to be afraid to submit these challenges, because if you do, we're going to use our USAID money to come after you and your family, and you're not going to be able to afford to defend yourself. So they're trying to create an incentive that scares people in Georgia from being able to challenge these records. And so that's why it's so important that True the Vote prevails in this case and sets that precedent as case law, because this is going to help protect every single resident of Georgia going forward and being able to exercise this right without having to worry about people like Stacey Abrams and Marc Elias, intimidating them with lawfare.
All right. So here's the deal, folks. You guys got the story. You know what's going on. This is important. Okay. Sometimes, we cover news that we really can't do anything about. It's just good news. We got a bunch of criminal illegals arrested. Of course, we don't get a report on that because there's a great weekend of that going on. And that's great to know. But this is where your involvement is key. Okay. So again, those of you who follow me on X, this is my last post on X. Okay. This is reposting Heather's post, okay? So you can repost this, but you've got to tag Pam Bondi. You can even write comments in here. You need to interact with the tweet to get it to go, okay? So make comments, tag, and you can see there she is, AG Pam Bondi. The other thing you can do, okay, is you can contact the Department of Justice. I'm going to ask you to do that, and I've got that page up there as well. You can also go to... And I'm telling you to do all of these, okay? And I'm going to ask you to do 3 to 4 specific things. This is not going to take a lot of your time, but just in the comments right now, I just want to see a commitment from some people. How many of you are willing to do this? Just type yes in the comments. If not, you don't need to say anything. But those that are willing to do this, please type yes. And then everybody give them a hand clap and thank them, because this one stream, folks, this in interacting with these posts and contacting the Department of Justice, this can change this whole thing. I guarantee you. Okay.
We 100% need somebody at the DOJ. Like, I don't know why it hasn't happened yet, honestly, but I know it's only been 100 days and they have a lot on their plate, but somebody there needs to get in touch with True the Vote. And I'm like, at some point that has to happen, because you look at all that they've uncovered with the voter rolls, with the ballot harvesting, with the Connect, which was an election company that stored U.S. election information on Chinese servers. That was a huge scandal.
Yes.
And so the DOJ needs to get everything that groups and organizations like True the Vote have on the election fraud side of things and start going after these people.
Okay,
going after them.
Cindy, you said yes, but I'm not finding that link on X. Again, just go to my page at Neil E. Johnson. Click my profile.
Can you put a link to the tweet in the chat?
It'll be right below the pinned tweet. And I did even put I'm going to put the post right in the chat again. Okay, so it's there. I've done that multiple times. I've got some of you saying yes. I need more people to say yes. You'll do this, folks. I'm serious. I mean, this is important. If you are concerned about election integrity, we've got to get this done. So you can go right to it. So I'm going to ask you to, number one, take the tweet that's there, interact with it, repost, make comments, always tagging AG Pam Bondi. That's her handle on X. Then I want you to, I'm going to give you some of you aren't on Twitter, I understand, or X. I'll get you the direct contact for the Attorney General as well. But then take these posts that are on her page, okay, and interact with them. Take the tweet, grab a link, and post it in there and say, Attorney, AG Pam Bondi, what's going on here? And then put a copy of the tweet in there. Or AG Pam Bondi, what's going on with the case in Georgia where the lawyers from the DOJ are helping Marc Elias? Okay, you got to just interact on her page in any one of her recent posts, and they will see this, okay? Retweet and I'll post it again, okay? Interact with this tweet and retweet it. And then I'm going to give you this as well. This is just justice.gov, okay, folks? And this is justice.gov, contact us, but you can just go to justice.gov, go to the contact us page. And so here's a form, and you can email right through this or call them. Here's the department comment line, 202-353-1555. Here's the main switchboard, and you can call the main switchboard and ask for, I wouldn't just leave a comment on the comment line. I would call the main switchboard and ask for AG Pam Bondi's office. Say I'll leave a message, okay? But it's easy to find. Just justice.gov, folks. This is it. Make a call, send an email, interact with a tweet, and go to Pam Bondi's page and do this. And the reason I'm telling you to do this a number of different ways is because if the message isn't passed along, say there's a mole at the Justice Department, okay, which obviously there's moles because otherwise we wouldn't still have a case going on against True the Vote down in Georgia, then this is a way to directly get it in front of Pam Bondi through her Twitter page because her direct staff is checking that, okay? They are on top of this. I mean, Twitter X is a phenomenal way of getting in touch with these people. So just do all that for us, folks. Again,
I'm going to do one last little request too. If you have the means to, and you want to support True the Vote, I highly recommend donating to them in this fight because these are two people, Greg and Catherine, both who I've known forever. They went to jail. I don't know if you remember this, Neil, but in the Connect case, there was some bogus defamation case that Connect sued them. And the judge in that case was another one of those rogue judges that used the civil case to try to extort information out of Greg and Catherine. And they wanted them to reveal one of their sources. And so when Greg and Catherine didn't reveal their source, this judge actually threw Greg and Catherine in jail for 10 days and they protected their source. And then a Fifth Circuit court judge let them out. And then that same defamation case got dismissed. It got thrown out because it was bullcrap because they actually Connect did what they were accused of, but they used the court case to try to extort information. And Greg and Catherine in that case had been working with the FBI, the Biden FBI, for months, and the FBI turned on them, which is why Greg and Catherine were forced to go public about the Connick story, because the FBI at the time had turned on them and were trying to like go after them for exposing it. And so now it's like, I'm just waiting for that moment when the Trump DOJ and the Trump FBI connect with True the Vote on all this stuff, because you're talking like Chinese influence and meddling in our elections. Like, that's a big deal. That needs to be investigated by the Trump DOJ and FBI. So please, for the love of God, like,
yes.
You know what I mean? But the real pressing one is this.
I've given money to True the Vote. I mean, it's an organization worth giving money to. I mean, they're doing the real work. So what should we actually say to the DOJ again? So this is
that they need to reach out to True the Vote, and they need to withdraw from the case in Georgia that's going on right now.
Yep.
Like, pull their attorneys off of the case.
Yes.
That's what, because they're those attorneys and all those attorneys that are on that Biden put there. If I were the Trump DOJ, I would be looking at all of those attorneys and whether or not we want to keep them working on the American tax paradigm, right?
Amen.
Because do you know what I mean? Like those ones in particular. I'll just,
yes.
You know, I don't want to say what I want to say because I don't want to get sued, but I just have some thoughts on that. And I would strongly encourage the Trump DOJ to look into all of the attorneys that have been working in lockstep with Marc Elias on various lawsuits.
But just a quick line, folks. This is True the Vote, Fair Fight versus True the Vote. It's in Georgia. That's the case. Fair Fight versus True the Vote. They have attorneys from the DOJ working on that case. The DOJ needs to drop out of that case, basically, is what needs to happen. So that's all you gotta say in the email. You know, they don't make it complicated. You can make it 2 lines. Just say, to whom it may concern, I'm very concerned about the DOJ's involvement in Fair Fight versus True the Vote. Yes. True the Vote is simply fighting for election integrity. This case has already been won, and now you're engaged in, you know, an appeals process. It's bizarre. So please remove your attorneys from this case. That's what you're doing, and on the phone call and the email. And I want to close this stream out because I don't want it to go too long, because I want it to get more replays. Again, folks, please share it. Please smash the like, drop another comment before you leave. I did it. Look at this. I think I got it. I did it. So a bunch of you are doing this. So thank you so much. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, all of you. Okay. You guys are great. I mean, you really are a great audience, and you always do the stuff. You do the work. So I thank you so much for that. I love you all. Keep fighting the good fight. Heather, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for spreading the word, Neil.
Oh yeah, no, it's got to get out. So we'll see you all in the next episode, but make sure this word gets out. Also, on Heather's, the other thing you can do too is attached to Heather's tweet, she has in the first comment an article. So if it's easier for you to share an article, then share the article that's attached to that. Okay, get this out. Share it with your friends, your neighbors, relatives, anybody who's on the right side of this fight that will help you in contacting them. So see you on the next episode. All right. I could go on about this forever. I just want everybody to do it. Peace out.
Bye.